Welcome back to the On Deck Circle podcast, brought to you by the Fantasy Six Pack. I am one of your hosts, the most handsome host on the show, Nick Zandabone. You can find me at nzandabone93 on Twitter. Unfortunately, I don't tweet that much, but again, we do have a guest today, so I am going to bring in Jason real quick before we get started. Jason, how are you, buddy?
Good, buddy. Good, buddy. We had the league announcements for our Fantrax Fan Six Pack series. So I know we were in the live chat yesterday, giving each other a little bit of rubbings, and my guy pulled a hammy, man. Like I think I got like the 10th pick or something on that 100-yard dash. I've never seen anything like that before. That was kind of a nice little.
For those of you that did not see, we had our drawing, and the draft order was a simulation of people running just a 100-yard dash. And speaking of, there was some controversy, and I need Dave in here because I need to address something with him. How fast did you say you could run a 40-yard dash?
I said I think I could do a 5.240. That's what I said. Listen,
I think you'd be double.
No, shut up. That's the dumbest. Listen, you've said a lot of dumb things. That's the dumbest thing you've ever said. I would definitely be in single digits.
No.
Listen.
9.
Doing a little bit of research. 5.2 may have been a little high.
Okay.
I didn't really research my comment. It was kind of off the cuff.
Yeah.
I am, however, extraordinarily confident that I would be under 7.5 for sure.
Okay.
If I had to guess my time, I would say, upon a little more research, I think I'd be around probably 7.
I think maybe I'm underestimating my athletic ability. I don't think I'd be under 8. And I'd like to think that I'm more athletic and faster than you, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
I could just be wrong.
You should have a fantasy 6-pack combine.
I said I will run it in Indy.
Yeah.
I mean, not really.
We'll all get together and we'll all run through the three cone shuttle and
bench
40-yard dash and bench press. Yeah. See who the most athletic
baseball win the high jump just because they got the longest arms.
I wonder if anyone would watch. I wonder if we get like 4 people to watch that.
Maybe like our moms.
Not even my mom. My mom wouldn't entertain such nonsense.
No.
I bet you Poppy would watch.
My papa would watch.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
You would definitely watch. Well, listen, no one came here to watch us today.
Yeah.
I think everyone is here for our guest. Hopefully, we've got another good one. He's got a tough act to follow because Jesse Goldberg's roster was absolutely amazing last week. That guy sees so much minor league baseball that it's ridiculous, and his insights were phenomenal. And of course, we had Jesse Roach the week before that. But this week we're bringing in another heavy hitter. This gentleman here is from NBC Sports Edge, The Athletic, and the host of the Turn 2 podcast. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Matt Williams. How's it going, Matt?
Pretty good. I just spent the pre-show researching how fast the average person would run a 40.
That's good. I like it.
Looks like the average is around like 5.2.
Wow.
Anything above 5.5 is bad, but I don't know if they're using athletes as the average person. And I'm trying to find out if that means an actual average person or the average athlete.
What do the biggest linemen run?
What about Rich Eisen
at center?
Rich Eisen runs it in a suit every year. What's his 40-yard times?
That's
a good one right there, because now you have me all interested.
I know it was a fun topic.
Here we go. This is better. Now what I just said is definitely wrong. He ran a 5.98.
Oh, okay.
Who did?
Rich Eisen. And he did that in a suit.
Come on. You tell me I can't get under 7 then?
No.
Yeah, I'm getting under 7 all day.
I would think that Rich Eisen's in decent shape because I don't think he would do that in a suit if he wasn't. Again, I don't know if you throw out average people you found in a store, what they're. I'm assuming when you guys are saying 7.8, I'm thinking that's probably more like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just harken back to Tom Brady's combine. You watch him run it, and it doesn't even look like he's remotely trying. And he basically got like a just under 5'3". Like, come on. I mean, I'm just saying.
He's a D1 athlete at that time, so.
I'm not comparing myself to Tom Brady. I mean, obviously I'm more handsome, but football-wise, he's got me beat. But I mean, if he can run it even in his quote-unquote prime at like a 4.3, I feel comfortable with a 7. But anyways, we're not here to talk about 40 dash.
We're talk about that now. Now I'm interested. Now we got to get this. We're gonna get to and how fast Dave can run the 40 because
it was a thing last night. We talked about it for a few minutes. There's lots of comments. I mean, it became a thing. I'm thinking at some point in time. I mean, Jason doesn't live tremendously far away from me. I'm thinking Jason and I might need to get together this spring. And we might need to film some 40-yard dashes.
This is fantastic.
I'm in. Get to the local track and check it out.
Yeah, we'll put it on the company card, Jason.
Of course.
All right, well, let's get into our Dynasty deep dive this week. We're talking Cincinnati Reds. We're kind of running out of teams, and so now we're going to my least favorite state in the whole union. But, okay, see, here we go. Like I said, he's talking about the 40-yard dash.
I think this is your burner.
Yeah.
How is it my burner?
It's
she made several comments last night. You were catfishing yourself.
She's a burner.
I'm definitely not catfishing myself. But we're doing the Cincinnati Reds. As I said, we're staying in the Union, Ohio. And I'll tell you, I'm really proud of Nick this week because I would have bet you money that Nick, who has pitcher this week, was either going to go with a Luis Castillo, maybe a Sonny Gray. Oh, no. Nick, why don't you go ahead and educate the folks on your pitcher?
All right. There's actually a developing story on this that I'm going to need Matt's opinion on after I'm done with my spiel.
Okay, we cannot wait.
And my pitcher is Riviere San Martin, who currently projects via RotoChamp that he's going to be their 4th starter. I understand that there's still signings to be had, all that jazz. But last year he pitched 2 games. Which was around 12 innings. He was 2-0, had an ERA of 1.54. He has 4 pitches, which aren't fast, but but he does indeed have a 4-pitch mix, none of which average over 90. So that's kind of annoying. But he's someone that I found on waivers last year in my 2014 league, and he was fine. He was in AA and AAA last year. He was 10-2 through both levels. A mid-3s ERA. He's not going to be a league winner. He's really not.
You don't know that.
I'm here to say to you, he is not going to be a league winner.
So what's more likely, that he is on a TGI league winner, or that I run the 40-yard dash in under 7 seconds? You have to pick. You have to put money on one.
Hold on. You're saying if he's on a league winner, not if he is a league winner.
Right.
No, he's just on the league.
Yeah, sure,
on a team that wins the league.
Sure.
No.
I put my money on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. I can't wait till I run a 6.9.
I can't wait for Matt to tell me this guy's just garbage.
He's not garbage. He's just, I mean, last year totally threw it. He weighs nothing. For his height.
He's a stick.
He is a stick figure. He throws 4 pitches, like Nick said, not hard. He throws not hard. He strikes out no one. So, check mark. But he has really, really great command. The problem is, he did really well in 2 starts, but 113 innings, maybe he can jump up, into the 150-ish range, which is all you really need from where you're going to be drafting him. I'm assuming we're talking about really deep leagues like draft champions, but if he's going to start, he does real well, you can pick him up off waivers. The whole problem is he doesn't strike out anyone, and his main thing is he just dominates lefties. All this could add up into him probably being moved into the bullpen, but again, he's marked right now to be the Reds' 4th starter because not only are they just letting people go like Wade Miley for free, but they are also looking into trading more people. And I don't think that means they're bringing in anybody, at least of value. So he's getting a shot here. So for as late as he's going, if in like a draft and hold, I would definitely give him a shot. You can't draft him in like a 12-team league by any means, but yeah, do you want to keep an eye on him in spring training and see how he looks? There's plenty of value to be had in low strikeout pitchers as long as they're going to give you low ratios and
innings.
And again, like I said, I say dominates lefties. He doesn't get roughed up by righties, but he definitely could be a left-handed specialist. So yeah, he could be a poor man's Marcus Stroman. He could before the strikeouts. He could be not quite peak. Maybe like a Dallas Keuchel light.
Very light.
Yeah, so he doesn't stink, but like I think Nick said, he is not a league winner. He doesn't have it in him, period, and he doesn't have the stuff to be moved into a closer role. So if you're, maybe they'll move him to the pen. No, he's not that either. He could be a very good relief pitcher, but not from a fantasy standpoint. You want him to start games, but again, because of the innings, I don't know if he'll be going 5 innings and stuff. So yeah, he's interesting. He's pitched 2 games in the major leagues, and they were, he did both good, well for each of them. So in that area, there's probably better avenues to go, but he is certainly interesting. The command is great, and that is at least a good thing.
All right. And so here's my question now.
Go ahead.
So as we started this show, I was offered a trade for, so this guy wants Riviere. It was James Wood, who's like great.
Yeah.
Maybe. Omar Narvaez, the catcher, for Ryan Pepote. I don't know how to say his name for the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And Riviere, which seems fine. I don't trust pitching prospects anyway because no such thing. And I don't have a catcher.
Heard that.
Hold on, you're getting the Narvaez part and you're giving up San Martin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to put my money, I'd say this guy's in the bullpen by All-Star break.
Said Christian Walker or San Martin, but I'm fine keeping Christian Walker because he's not terrible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
I mean, the worst case scenario, you've given up a player with no upside.
Yeah.
I mean, his best case scenario is he doesn't kill you, and that's not fun. A Kyle Hendricks with a low floor.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
All right. So honest question, just from what I've heard about this guy now, would you rather draft him, or we'll just say real life, on your real life baseball team? Would you rather have this guy, and he has to be in your bullpen or has to be in your rotation, or would you rather have today's Jamie Moyer? Like 50-year-old Jamie Moyer, because they sound like they're roughly the same player.
Hold on, I don't know how badly I made this guy seem, but I'm definitely taking Sam Martin here.
Really? I mean, Jamie Moyer was amazing. I know he's probably 57 years old.
R.A. Dickey, or
yeah, I'll still go with the current major leaguer,
the current 25-year-old.
All right, Jason.
I mean, there's a point where I'll start saying yes, but we haven't reached it yet.
All right, Bartolo Colon.
You know what? I think it's close.
I know.
I think if Bartolo came over, I think there's a good chance Bartolo could outproduce him. That's actually probably a sad thing, but my first instinct is I think that would be rather close.
Jason, get us out of this hole we're in. Tell us a little bit about your boy Jesse Winker.
Yeah, I'll take the low-hanging fruit this week from Nick, and I'll grab Jesse Winker. He just came off one of his best seasons statistically. He fell just short of that highly coveted 3-4-5 slash line. Some injuries there kind of maybe helped out the small sample sizes. Still, 450, 480 plate appearances, I think, something on that line. Of all the outfielders with at least 450 plate appearances, this is what I found interesting, actually. In 2021, Winker's 949 OPS ranked third behind only Harper and Soto. He also had career highs in home runs, RBIs, extra base hits. And a lot of that, I think, is due from his increased launch angle in 2021. And he also had his above-average hard hit rate. He's still only 28 years old, so he's still right in the middle of his peak performance years. The DH is coming to the NL, which should only help him get more at bats if he can stay healthy. And, I'm just looking to see if he can progress even those power numbers further. He hit 24. Maybe if he gets those extra at bats, maybe in the 500 to 600 range, he might possibly get to that 30 mark. But, I think at 28 years old, I think I'd take all of him right now.
Hit us with it, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah, the whole thing with him, I think, is just health. He had the crazy first half last year, and then he had the intercostal strain. He came back, struggled. We don't know if it was, was probably due mostly to the injury, but from all the moves that he's made to change his the changes like a general approach. If you put everything together, I mean, you're looking at what everyone's hoping Eloy Jimenez is much earlier in redraft. That's basically what we have here, like near a 300 average, 35 bombs if healthy. I mean, he's fantastic. It's just a matter of staying on the field. You have to keep that in mind in Dynasty as far as you're probably going to miss some time. So I don't know if you'll truly ever see that full season realized, but as far as pace goes, when he's on the field, that's what you're going to get. So yeah, he's, I mean, barrels the ball, hits the ball hard, good contact skills. He's just a fantastic hitter. If you're only injury prone until you're not, Jorge Soler, he was injury prone. He played 162 games. So yeah, if in Dynasty, if you can try to get any kind of a discount on this guy, I really think has the skills to be like a guy taken in like the 5th, 6th round. And he's going significantly later right now. I mean, he's going right around like who's that guy who had the devastating injury in the like Mitch Haniger. He's kind of going like right before there, and he's significantly better. And I like Haniger. I like him a lot. Yep. He's going in an appropriate spot. Winker's a lot better of a hitter. He should be going earlier. It's just the health.
All right, well, let's get to the prospect here. And this is a guy that's really kind of flown up a lot of rankings and a lot of guys, radars here. And talking to Ellie De La Cruz, and he's an interesting one because, I wouldn't say he necessarily is absolutely out of nowhere, but he kind of is. I mean, he signed for just $65,000 during his signing period. So they didn't have the highest expectations for him, but as it turns out, they may have a 5-tool player on their hands. And I personally like switch hitters. Given the option between a switch hitter and non, I always would obviously gravitate towards that switch hitter. And he's going to have with having 5 tools, obviously he's going to have an opportunity to give you some power and some speed. And nowadays with how difficult it is to get speed, if you can get a guy, that gives you, the ceiling of having that, it definitely makes him more intriguing. He's a guy that I've traded for in a couple of regular size leagues. And I mean, I had to, I paid a decent price to get him. I would say, the value I got on him was probably something about a top 70-ish prospect, which I don't know. I'll be curious where Matt thinks he falls, but I think that is a little bit high maybe, but I think that in a year from now that's going to look like a good value for me. So curious your thoughts there on Ellie De La Cruz, Matt.
I mean, he's still really, really young, so this could go a lot of ways. Like you said, this is a big year for him because to give everyone who rosters him excitement, he's like Jazz Chisholm with a much higher ceiling.
Sure.
That's basically any switch hits. Speaking of which, I think most people that switch hit shouldn't. I think it's like few and far between people that should switch hit. Anyone who does probably has a better side that they should stick with. I think most people that have like given it up have actually done better. So that's just like that on a side. I think there's very few players that benefit from doing it, but I understand that it keeps them in the lineup, and there's certain positives to that. But as far as De La Cruz goes, he's like, I'm trying to say, he has like if everyone talks about how you grade a prospect, he's pretty much elite on both the power and speed end. And he kind of showed that last year, especially in the second half. This is someone who has like plus power and the ability to actually steal bases. The only problem is he had like a 30% strikeout rate and low A ball. That's not good. You usually like to see, players dominate low and then they come up, struggle and adjust. And then when they make the jump to the majors, you see that strikeout rate jump a bit. Plate discipline is usually the thing that travels the most, but he still had like a 290 some average, which again, you can overcome those problems in the lower minors because people aren't throwing crazy stuff at you. So that'll be the issue, is if he can adjust to movement, breaking pitches, and the stuff that he's going to see some more advanced pitching. The tools are nuts. So yeah, invest, because you can get them very cheap now. I mean, you can't get this kind of upside many places. So yeah, I'd be all over it. But as far as projecting him, it's flip a coin. he can be anywhere from like perennial all-star to doesn't even come near the majors because he just can't hit a curveball. We don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of basically the second half of the year is the reason he came out of nowhere. He really showcased that power and speed, and that combination, especially for fantasy, is insane.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to echo your point because I think it's super important that the pitching in the very low minors. So you're talking low A. It's terrible, and it was worse last season than it normally is. So when you see a high strikeout rate at that level, that definitely is concerning. Like Matt pointed out, I think that's a terrific point and something to really keep in mind when you're looking at him.
Yeah, and like for example, for anyone trying to get an idea of his the league average for MLB player for contact, a contact percentage is around 76-77%. In low A ball, his was 10 points below that in low A. So I mean that's not good.
Right.
So
right.
he has some work to do, but the skills are phenomenal.
All right. So the bread and butter of this episode is going to be, I want to talk to Matt about some players for 2020 that could disappoint. So I'm not saying these aren't bold hot takes here saying that these are guys that you need to avoid, but these are some guys that I think are worth having a conversation about. They're varying levels of player, but just some guys that I have some concern about personally. And I just kind of want to run through a little bit and see if we get a consensus of the room here on some of these guys. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm starting off with a big one. Okay. First guy I want to talk about is Shohei Ohtani. So for me personally, this is how I view things. I think that Shohei is obviously extraordinarily unique. If it's a daily league and it's redraft, I probably would take Shohei number 1 overall. Just because, where else do you get a combination of hitting and pitching, like that you can mix around? In weekly leagues, I think his value drops tremendously because you have to choose where you're going to play him, and most people are going to play him as a hitter. Still a first-round talent, but no longer a consideration for me at number 1. My concern with him in 2022 is I think that there's a reasonable chance that what we saw last season was going to be his absolute peak season. I mean, he was an amazing hitter. He was a significantly above average pitcher. And I think to bank on somebody being able to do that again and again and again could be a little bit of fool's gold. Extraordinarily valuable player, but I'm concerned. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, he is that good. I do agree in a daily league where he's one player and you can switch lineups. He's the 101. It's like a no brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the problem in weekly leagues is he's not a dual player then, because I think I saw in best ball, if you had him, he registered as a pitcher maybe 3 times. Right. He's a hitter. If you draft him, he's a hitter. You're never pitching him. I mean, in best ball, that's when they choose his best weeks. You don't get to see that ahead of time. Right. He's your hitter. He's always going to be your hitter. The thing is, if he gets injured pitching, which is the more likely of the two, he probably could continue to hit. I mean, there was a thing where they said if he actually had an elbow surgery, he was going to continue to hit. So There's at least that. I mean, he had a brutal second half, like basically as bad as Odalys Garcia, but he still ended with the totals he did, power and speed machine. The biggest problem is he's also utility only, which that's tough from a roster build way. It's tough enough if you don't get – you want to get some speed early, but if it's not coming from like shortstop, third base, he's not even outfield. It's a tough way to build your team the rest of the way. So he's someone where, as much as I like him, I'm probably not going to be drafting him. I'll probably regret that, but I think I'm not as worried because I think the most likely, if he gets injured, he still can probably hit every day. At least he talked himself into not having the day off before or after starts, or the day he starts, he's going to hit every day now. So I understand people taking him, but that everything on top of each other, along with him being utility, it's a little too much for me to take him in the first round. So even though he certainly belongs to be taken where he is, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. So next guy on the list is Luis Castillo, and boy, he had an interesting season last year. He started out just getting absolutely rocked. April, ERA over 6, May, an ERA over 8, and then he settled down. And he had only one other month with an ERA over 2.15. And, for the season, he ended up, a little bit, worse for wear than usual, but not as bad as what it looked like. And, I think there's a lot of concern over him still heading into this year. He's personally a guy that, in my rankings, took a huge dip. Not a huge dip, but took a decent dip, and he's worked his way back up. I think he's still a few spots lower than where he would have been a year ago, but I don't have the concerns about him personally that like Nick and Jason do. So what do you think, Matt? What do you think about Luis Castillo, even if just for this 2022 season?
I like Castillo. I loved him last year. I was hoping to see him make this like Zach Wheeler type step forward with him being able to pitch a lot of ground balls and still strike people out. That obviously didn't happen. He got off to a brutal start. A lot of people blamed it on the cold, and that's obviously wasn't necessarily that entirely. The only thing is I don't believe that he has that in him anymore. I think kind of what we saw as his end line is closer to what he is. He's more like the second half pitcher than the first, but there's pitchers that I think can give you what he's giving you a lot later. So I don't necessarily have a problem taking him. It's just like right now, ATC projections, which they're pretty dead on. They're like an aggregate of everything. They have him projected for like 187 innings, 3.87 ERA, 1.29 WHIP, 193 strikeouts. 70 picks later, you can get Eduardo Rodriguez. 180 innings, they have him 3.80 ERA, 1.25 WHIP, 189 strikeouts. Essentially the same exact player. Obviously, you have to believe in those underlying metrics that people are trying to push onto him that he underperformed last year, and he's moving to Detroit, which is fantastic for him. So
boom.
I do believe in that. So that being said, I think Castillo isn't as bad as what we saw at the whole, but I think where he's going in drafts right now, I'm not as interested, at least in redraft purposes. It's just he's just going in an area that's just not, I'd rather go another direction where he's going.
Yeah. And my concerns mostly with Castillo are just the walks. It's always been, high walk guy. And then last year we saw, he had great success with that changeup. And I think he had almost a 30% put away rate on that changeup in 2020 and even before that. And then 2021, you saw hitters almost laying off that down and outside the righty changeup. And I think that kind of, increased the walks. And so I think maybe, we might see that again this year, unless he can adjust to it, obviously, which is all baseball is about, is adjusting. So I think that's going to depend on if he can get that changeup working again, then yeah, he may bounce back. But to me, it's the walks and that.
Having that brutal defense behind him is also terrible, especially with the walks. It compounds.
Yeah. Yep.
You miss things. You can't have near a 1-3 whip with horrible defense, but they're trying to trade people. I get the feeling they may not trade him. It'll probably end up being like Molly or Gray or both. But if he were to get traded, I'd like him a little more.
Yeah.
Put him on the trade.
Boy, let him go to St. Louis. You talk about a perfect spot to land. I'm
not sure that the Reds would be too gung ho about shipping him to St. Louis.
Interdivision.
I know. I'm just in a fantasy world, literally. That'd be fantastic. So next guy up on the list, another interesting name, I think, Bobby Witt Jr. So I think a lot of people were even drafting him, last season, thinking, he may be up early and he, may get a lot of time, and obviously that did not happen. And we are in a similar boat this year. Granted, it seems a lot more likely that he's going to be up, assuming we play baseball, but he'll be up on opening day or really soon. I just get really nervous about, guys like this, even though Bobby Witt obviously has, a strong pedigree. In his first season, I think that it's unfair to expect him to get anywhere near the ceiling that, people have for him. And I just feel like when you take guys like this, you're really setting yourself up for failure, because are you really going to spend a top 100 pick on this guy? I'm not going to, but I can see the draw, why people may. But what do you think about, Bobby Witt Jr. or even just guys in that same, realm, Matt?
All right, I'm gonna give a hypocritical answer. I think he is very good to the point where if he struggles and even in fantasy, he's still going to be good. He can be bad and still produce from a high level in fantasy, kind of like Mondesi tends to do. He's going to be better than Chaz Chisholm right out of the box. He's going to have better plate discipline at the major league level immediately. I think that he can go 2020 in his rookie year. That being said, I'm not taking him. I'm not drafting Jazz Chisholm either. I don't like the poor plate discipline from Chisholm, even though it's like a 2020 guy. Just because there happens to be other people I prefer at that area. It's it's fantasy. You can be a flawed player and still be great. Same thing with Bobby Witt Jr. Except I don't like to take rookies that early. I'm never going to have the breakout rookie going in the top 100. I'm not taking him. I'm not taking Kalinick this year. He can break out and people can throw it in my face. I'll take Riley Green. I think, he's going very late. I'll take a shot on him. Sure. I swear I'm not a Tigers fan either. I got the Mets stuff.
Oh, yeah, me neither.
I like it. But he's just going a little too early because the ceiling is fantastic and it wouldn't shock me if he did it immediately. But I mean, his floor is going back to the minors. Kalinick, I just named the best example, very recent one. He was can't miss, and he couldn't have missed worse. He went to he came up, sucked, went back, came back, sucked. He didn't prove to be it, but we're talking about last year. So I mean, you can't miss. There's no such thing. There's no such thing.
Well, I'll tell you, Jared Kelenic was on the list. So we can skip ahead a little bit there. And I mean, for me, again, he's a guy that, in Dynasty, both of these guys, yes, absolute ridiculously, high value.
Everyone. I'm talking redraft only. I'm not
right. Yeah. I know we go back and forth.
I'm not telling you to fade Witt.
No. But these would be examples where guys in redraft. I'm avoiding these guys. In Dynasty, they're both within my top 25. And go out of your way to get them there. But for redraft purposes, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, Kelnick's in a little different situation because he has been up. We have seen him. Granted, it wasn't a good thing. I think I probably would trust Kelnick a little bit more, oddly enough, just because he has gotten his feet wet, and even though he struggled, I think that those struggles will hopefully help.
How does everyone here feel? I'm just curious. What do you guys feel about that? If you had to take even money, Witt and Kelnick, who has a better year? This is assuming Witt is up. Like, let's just say they both play the whole. They just both play the whole year. Mostly, they both have identical plate appearances.
I'd take Kelnick.
Yeah.
So,
you like
for me, my answer is going to be a little different. For me, I think that they're very close. And so for me, basically, a tiebreaker is I think that I can get a lot better player at the shortstop position that I can get at the outfield position. So I would actually take Kelnick, just because I can more easily replace Bobby Witt. But I would say that they're fairly even.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Price-wise, I mean, you can get another player to replace him, and Kelnick's going later than Witt, so that makes an easier decision. I was just curious how everyone thought even.
Yeah.
But I don't take rookies. So I don't have to worry about it.
So next guy I want to talk about here, Kevin Gausman, of course. He was absolutely fantastic, last season, pitching in San Francisco, and now he's making a very difficult move, and he's going to Toronto. And normally I would say, I'm not a big fan of going from no DH to a DH, but now obviously that's kind of irrelevant. But either way, I really think that Gausman was above his head last season, as it was anyways. I think we talked about him a few different times, Nick, and I was always kind of now I don't trust it. I don't trust it. Now you take him out of San Francisco, and now I'm really nervous even more. So I mean, he's a guy that I don't know where he'd have to fall for me to drop. So somewhere well beyond where he ever actually would. So just for those reasons, I think I'm out on him. When it comes for me for pitching, I like to play it very safe. I don't mind taking risks on hitters, but for pitching, I'm more of a floor than a ceiling guy. So that takes me out on Gausman. But what do you think about him, Matt?
I'm mostly out on him too, and it doesn't have to do with me disliking him. That early in the draft, you need to split hairs, and I just like other players. I prefer other ones. Besides, I mean, you're kind of paying for what he did with the 2.8 ERA and the 1.10 WHIP. He's going a little later than that, but I mean, his expected stats were were significantly worse. He's going to a much more difficult environment, and the thing is, he has like just one of the best pitches in baseball, that splitter, and he throws it so often. I mean, it's becoming like nearly 50% of the time. Not that much, but
It was 35 to be exact last year.
I mean, yeah, I was exaggerating.
No, I know.
The trolls came for me. It's a painful pitch to throw. I mean, you're literally wedging the ball between your fingers, and that makes it inconsistent. That's like Frankie Montas kind of struggled. He has his own back issues and stuff as well. So he's another person to slightly worry about. But if you're throwing that pitch, the rails could come off for you. So for someone, that you're going that early, I just kind of tie break him out of certain things. I'd rather have his teammate Jose Barrios. I'd rather have him. You're getting 200 innings. You're getting a strikeout per inning. His upside isn't as much, but his floor is significantly higher. But of course, I'd rather have pretty much there's pretty much a whole glob of pitchers going in that area. Joe Musgrove, Frankie Montas, like I said, Rogers on there in Miami. There's there's a lot of pitchers. So I won't be investing in Gausman. He could stick with this again, but it just seems like the odds are stacked a little against him, and he got a little lucky last year. He was on a great team in a great park. It's just, I'd be a little worried here. I mean, he's going to prove us all wrong, no doubt. But it'll be on someone else's roster.
All right. So next guy up here, again, I think all these guys are interesting. So I don't know why I'm going to keep saying another interesting guy.
Let's talk about a really uninteresting. Let's talk about Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, exactly.
Uninteresting guy.
Let's talk about Spencer Howard. I want to talk about Dallas Garcia. He was a guy that I actually traded for in 30 Rock and then couldn't turn around and wait to trade him. I ended up dumping him off to Jesse Roach. But he's a guy that's interesting because he does provide you with some much needed power speed. I mean, there's no question about that. But, like, for example, that 30 Rock League, it's an OBP league, and he is just absolute torture, for OBP. I mean, if his batting average would have been his, on base percentage last year, 286, we'd be satisfied. But, I mean, the guy he refuses to walk, and so that just scares me. And, he came out of nowhere and had a great season, especially all things considered. I just don't see how you can bank on that, happening, again in the future. I'm just kind of curious, Matt, your thoughts on him in general, but also, where he is, currently being drafted.
Yeah, it's going to be a no for me.
That's going to be a no for me, dog.
Again, league average swinging strike rate's like 11. His is 17. And again, this is for the full season.
Right.
This counts as great first half. If we just went on his second half, you'd be running for the hills, everybody. I mean, his chase rate, brutal, like 40%. His contact in the zone is below 80. And there's a very strong reason if you just kind of look into what happened in the second half, which again, let me try to look up what he do in the second half. He batted.
Yeah, they were terrible. 211.
Yeah.
I show after the All-Star, but 211. 9 of his 31 home runs. He had an on base of 256. So for as bad as the season-long numbers look, with the things that concern us, the second half was, just as bad.
And the problem is, do we know? We haven't seen a lot. Is he just streaky? An entire first half streak, an entire second half streak? Unlikely that you just have a good first half and a bad entire second half. People started to throw him fastballs more, and he couldn't catch up to them, and that's bad. It's one thing if you just get to the major leagues and you get fooled by breaking pitches, you can look for a fastball and then you can adjust to a breaking pitch. If you cannot hit a fastball, you are done. So if the second half is who he is, not only is he's not like a guy like Joey Gallo where you can wheel him out there to do his thing and live with the batting average. He won't play. They're not going to play him if he's that bad, and that's a risk you're going to have to take. So that's my main concern with him is I can't take him even where he's going because it's not one of those things where I said earlier you can be bad and he could still provide fantasy value. I'm worried that he's so bad he will not play.
Yeah, I don't know that it's worth, because I think in that spot you're taking him for two reasons. You're taking him because there's some speed on the board that isn't available elsewhere, and you're hoping that there's some of that first half magic still there. I'm on Matt's corner here. I just don't trust it enough to take him again anywhere. He's not going to be available late enough for me to pull the trigger on him.
Well, here's something too. Since I continue to bring up, since since I continue to bring up Tigers over and over again, I'm going to bring up another one. Where is Garcia? I'm trying to look up at his ADP right now in FBC leagues since
it's like 160 something. I think I was just looking it up.
Is that where he's going? Since in December, since February, his average is 180. Adolis Garcia, and you can get Robbie Grossman at 178. Boom, right there. Yeah. No reason to take Garcia over Robbie Grossman. Take Andrew Benintendi, I think is going around the same wheelhouse too. I mean, these are the guys. Go with them. Adolis Garcia is very, very flawed. There's other guys in that area that I would jump ADP in order to make sure I got them instead.
All right, so next guy I want to talk about, you know how much we love catchers around here. Catchers, pitching prospects, and relievers. Those are our things. Sal Perez. Obviously, Sal Perez had a season last year just for the ages. Just absolutely, ridiculous. I don't need to we've covered that before, so I don't really need to get into that. But I think that it has significantly, inflated his value. I think a lot of us agree, that catcher is a position that I'm very happy to punt. And, if I'm reaching early for something that I don't want to reach for, it's going to be a closer. It's not going to be a catcher, and, where Sal's going right now, I just can't do it. I guess if I knew he was going to repeat, his numbers from last season, I would maybe consider it. But, I mean, that just seems so ridiculous. His 2021 was such an outlier compared to, other things that we'd seen from him that I'm not banking on it at all. I'm going to let somebody else take that shot. What do you think about Sal Perez, though, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, if you were guaranteed to get last year, it would probably be worth taking in the first round. Possibly. He's not going to do that. I've seen him go in the second round this year, mostly third round. No thanks. I'm not doing that. I'll take a catcher early though. I don't punt. I mean, in one catcher formats, I will punt. That's fine.
Yeah, that's what I meant was a one catcher, not in like not in like NFBC. Then I'm reaching. I'm happy to get a Real Muto early. But I guess I meant more one catcher league. I'm sorry.
There is a pretty clear-cut top tier of catchers, though, I think, with Perez, Realmuto, Smith, depending on how you feel about Varsho playing every day with the stolen bases. And then you kind of have that kind of mediocre, excellent tier of Contreras and Grandal. And then will they take advantage of the DH in the National League, Ruiz and Stevenson tier. And after that, it kind of gets the question marks kind of pile up like crazy. So I don't mind trying to get a catcher in the top area, but all of them, I mean, Will Smith, I love. He's going pick 64. Yeah. Like it's Salvador Perez, I say going around 2-3. He's like 32, catcher. He's going to DH. He can move around and still get his plate appearances. But last year, he had like near 700 plate appearances or something crazy. That's never happening again, even for him. And we know he gets plate appearances. He got way too many last year compared to what he normally did. That's an anomaly. The power's coming back, even though he has shown the ability that his barrels have gone up the last 2 years. He changed the kind of hitter he is, but he has like a near 40% chase rate. Just terrible plate discipline. So I think that there could be a trap door below him in batting average as well. Absolutely. So everyone's still kind of expecting him to overcome without hard contact and keep that kind of 270 average. It wouldn't shock me if it dropped down in like 240 at 250. I would project him to be more like the 255 area, but it wouldn't shock me for him to go below that. So yeah, if you're drafting him where he's going, you kind of need him to do close to what he did last year, and he's not going to do that. And again, I told everyone to draft him last season because I said he's going to get a ton of plate appearances and look at the trend in barrels. And now this year it's the exact opposite. Like now he's going way too freaking early. It's kind of like, the thing with Jose Abreu. He continues to like go back and forth between going too early and too late. So yeah, I'm with you on Perez. He's great. He's my catcher too. I actually have Will Smith ranked ahead of him. I expect Will Smith to do better. Just because I love what we saw him in the second half, but catcher two or not, I'm never ending up with Salvador Perez. That's too freaking early.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so last guy I want to talk about here, Mark Melanson. I mean, this guy's obviously been
there you go. He's not interesting at all. You nailed it.
Yeah, there you go. That's as boring as it gets. I mean, especially on the Diamondbacks. But I mean, this
he's on the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, man. Well, welcome to the baseball show, Nick.
This is kind of my shtick, Matt. In case you didn't know,
that was great. I wanted to like that. I found that would be like peak Melanson for someone who just doesn't even know because like maybe it's like
uninteresting.
Like I heard it, but I didn't care.
I just thought he's been on the Pirates for like 15 straight years.
Yeah, might as well be. But I mean, he's an interesting one because obviously he's signed to close in Arizona. I mean, what does that get you? I don't know. Probably 20, 25 saves. I mean, you're obviously not going to get 39 saves again.
I actually disagree. I call it the Chad Cordero paradox. Chad Cordero was a not very good closer for when they moved from Montreal to Washington, the Nationals. He led the league in saves like a couple years in a row. You can get a ton of saves on a crappy team because they're going to win a lot of their games by a run or two and no more.
I agree.
So
I'll agree. You can get a lot of saves on a crappy team. He's just not going to. But you're right. Yes,
he did lead the league in like losing games by like 1 or 2 runs. I do think they'll be the most improved team in baseball, and I mean that literally. But they can win like another 40 games and still finish in last. They were really bad. So I mean, I think I actually like Melancon where he's going. I don't mind it.
See, I mean, with a lot of the mocks and stuff we've been doing for like the TGFBI, he's typically going somewhere, and I don't know what his NFBC is that you're looking at, but he's been going right around 110-ish or so.
Yeah, that's where he's going.
Okay,
yep.
And
but I'd rather take him than like a Will Smith from the Braves at 66.
So my thought process is this: I would rather not be in a position to have to consider taking Melancon. I'd rather have my closing situation figured out by then, because there's a lot of bats in that area that are fine. There's a lot of starting pitchers in that area that are fine. I don't want to be forced to have to consider taking Mark Melancon. So I guess maybe more so for me, that's why I'm out on him, because I'm not going to be in the position where in that part of the draft I'm looking for saves. So I'm not going to be taking him a lot for that reason. And I mean, there's nothing really in his favor.
Makes sense.
It's not often, but yes.
I'm in an extreme draft and hold mindset, which for anyone who's never really done them, there's 700 players drafted. There is no free agency. You draft a ton of players on your team. And especially if you're doing it this time of year where half the jobs aren't even known, you kind of have to get a couple of closers, have jobs. So I guess that's maybe why I'm a little more warm to Mark Melancon than I should. Because in a league with a fab or waivers, where you can, pick up players and drop them, I want nothing to do with a pitcher like Mark Melancon. So maybe I should clarify. I'm in my own head of what I've been doing recently. So yeah, I like Melancon, but only from you only have one shot to draft saves standpoint. I am completely with you, Dave. Anything where any kind of league where you can actually make roster moves, I would never draft Melancon.
Part of the beauty of this is, here we've had this conversation. We've had to throw out so many caveats of, well, I mean, in this regard, there's so many different ways that you can go about this. And, that's one thing that, I caution, especially when people are looking at, my dynasty rankings. They'll ask me questions and, this guy's too high, this guy's too low. And those rankings are just a general thing. It's not meant for any one league. It's not meant for any team, even in any league. It's just a very generic, very general thing. So you do have to keep in mind, the content that you're consuming and, how does it relate to what it is that you're looking for? Because, huge differences between 1 catcher, 2 catcher leagues, huge differences between dynasty and best ball, for God's sakes. I mean,
roto and points leagues,
I mean, there's so many things. So you really have to be cautious and seek out, the content that you're actually looking for, instead of just saying, oh, hey, Matt's a super smart guy. He said Sal Perez is, his number 2 catcher. Well, I'm definitely going to take him. That depends on if you're in a dynasty league, that's probably not a good idea. So you guys got to be careful about that. But Matt, I want to give you the floor here before we end this. Go ahead, tell the people, I know I introduced you earlier with a little bit of stuff, but tell the people where they can find you. Tell them what you got going on. Anything you want people to know.
I'm going to take this time to talk for a half hour about Kyle Gibson, if that's okay with
everybody. Yeah, please do.
I'm not going to do that.
35 minutes instead.
If you want to talk baseball, you can follow me on Twitter at Matt Williams, MATTWI77IMS. My DMs are always open. If you have any questions about, I'll do a lot of posts breaking down players online on Twitter. If you have any questions about any like advanced metrics, you want to do your own player analysis, DM me privately. If you're like, a lot of people don't like to put that stuff out in the public. Yeah, I'll answer any questions you want. I'm always happy to talk baseball. I have a weekly column, the one that was nominated for the FSWA. They never say what the actual thing is for. It's by the numbers on NBC every Tuesday. I basically go through and use some of these like kind of advanced statistics to teach the audience how to do your own player analysis. Right now I'm doing this thing called discount doppelgangers, just for the alliteration, where I go through just looking at ADP, popular projections, and opportunity costs, and saying like, for example, like don't draft Trent Grisham necessarily, because you can get that kind of production with Robbie Grossman. And I go all through all the reasons on why Trent Grisham is going earlier, higher ceiling and all that. But I just go through the players you can invest in instead of Grisham at that area and then wait on a player. Part one was like infielders, two's outfielders. Next will be starting pitchers. But yeah, that's the kind of thing I do. You can also find me on the Turn 2 podcast. I'm a host over there and also over at The Athletic.
Yeah, so
Super
definitely,
cool
if you're not already following Matt or, consuming his content, I can't more highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
Obviously, he looks a little bit like Jason, so he's a good friend of this podcast for that reason alone. But Matt, I do greatly appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us.
No, thanks for having me on. It's funny. Like I always, everyone always asks me, like, you come on a show and then they'll let you know what we're going to talk about, and then like you said, we're going to talk only about the Reds. I'm like, what? I think you caught me off guard, and then you're like, we're just talking about San Martin. I'm like, okay, this is clearly not what I expected to be talking.
It's like, how late can I back out of this? Like, what's the deadline to tell you I'm busy?
Oh, I love like being pigeonholed into talking about certain players, because otherwise you'll end up getting 5 days of Twitter battles over Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's pointless to argue over who you're taking in the first.
He's not running or something.
They're all going to be good players. Talk about the later players. Where you actually have to make a decision.
Well, see, that's why we keep Nick around, because Jason and I like to take and take things a little bit off of just the mainstream, and Nick just doesn't have the knowledge base to do that.
I learn each podcast. And it's really helping me. I've never even played fantasy baseball until this year. I'm just playing.
That wouldn't surprise me, honestly. That's actually not as hot of a take as anybody who watches this show wouldn't consider that a hot take.
Saves? They haven't gotten rid of them yet.
Holds plus saves. What does WHIP stand for? What's actually funny is, Matt, is at the beginning of this podcast last year, is they would teach me a new
advanced stat
of the week,
because I have no idea what the hell they are.
Yeah, that would have been right up Matt's alley right there.
Would have been perfect.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Well, again, man, thanks for coming on. We greatly appreciate it. Everyone, check out Matt. If you have not, subscribed to Fantasy Six Pack channel yet, please do so. Hey, I appreciate everyone tuning in. We will catch you next week.
See you, boys.
See you, boys.